thought I'd show you that. It's a Borough view from the Brentford FA Cup replay that you didn't
Right.
play in. What happened? This is 95, 96.
Yeah, that was probably about 2 weeks before I left the club. I broke my ankle against Dover about 3 months before, and I was out for that length of time, maybe 6 weeks or 2 months. And I went and watched the Brentford game away, obviously the 1-1 draw with Trevor Senior. Really enjoyed it. And then my first game back was for the reserves on the Monday night against Camberley. So that was the day before the replay. So I played in the game. I got a hat trick, and Alan's just met me in the change room at Camberley and said, "You're on the bench tomorrow against Brentford." You know, I hadn't even done a training session, so quite happy with that, with the cameras there. And then not so happy 10 minutes into the game, though, when Dean Coney got injured and I was on the pitch with trying to mark. I was marking Marcus Bent. He'd scored 9 goals in 8 games or something. He's a 16-year-old. Well, I'm a big Everton fan. He'd done really well for us for a couple of years. He got us in the Champions League spot. So, yeah, we got beat 4-0, you know, in the replay. You know, they were on song. Obviously, they had their little shocker right at home, you know. So,
yeah.
And then I played against Northwich the next week. And then he left me out against Welling on the Tuesday. And a rush of blood, and I said that's it for me. So, you know, I just felt a few things were going on in the background. Not with Alan Taylor, because he's like a god to me, you know, but with other people around the club that they didn't think I was going to be maybe the same player because I had this sort of broken ankle. But I was only 32, I think, or about 32 at the time. So I thought I'd done quite well against Northwich. I think I scored and we won 2-1 away. And then the Tuesday game at Welling, yeah, he said to me, like, "You're on the bench, you know, like ease you back in." But rush of blood, I said that's it, and I left the club, which obviously is a big regret.
Well, we'll come back to that in a sec, but we'll go, if you don't mind, right back to the start of your footballing life. What age did you start playing football? Was it as early as you can remember? And were you one of these people who was just better than everybody else?
I started playing football when I was 5. Well, there was a school called Park School in Aldershot, which is a total football school, and all my relatives had played football. So by the time it come to me like being 7, I was straight in the team as the captain because my name was Horton. Like my granddad's son, he played for Millwall and Southampton, and he was part of the school. My dad was with Aldershot. My uncle Billy was with Aldershot. So everything just like as soon as I started playing, I was going to be a footballer, you know, and made captain straight away. Look, so I loved the school, and then so I started playing at 5, my very first game, and then absolutely loved it from then on.
And where did that take you then? Where was your first club where you thought, actually, I want to be a footballer?
I was a sort of a slow burn on that front. I went to school and played in all the school teams and like enjoyed it. But my main love then was cricket, and I played at Aldershot Cricket Club, and I absolutely loved me cricket. And football sort of went by. I didn't really play good boys football, but my dad never drove, and I was a bit of a shy lad, so I had to ask for lifts, when you wanted to go to the games. And it was just something I didn't really enjoy doing, like asking for lifts, So I just went out and started working life at 16 and played for the Aldershot Cricket Club football team, and then played a little bit of Sunday football for a local team called sort of Aldershot Athletic. Got to the stage of like when I was about 18. And then I was at a printing works called Galen Polms, which was then disbanded. So I had a bit of time off because I was doing apprenticeships. I played a bit of Wednesday football and played with quite a few good players on this Wednesday league, the Kingston Midweek League. And you heard of Jack Howarth, Big Jack, the Aldershot legend, and a boy called Lee Frost who played for Chelsea. So we had sort of quite a good team on a Wednesday. And the bloke who was watching, there was a manager of Godalming. And he just invited me down, for a training session at Godalming when I was 18, and went over there and thoroughly enjoyed it. A bit of combined counties, which was quite a bit of a step up from the local leagues. had 18 months at Godalming, and then still found it hard asking for lifts because I didn't drive, and even at 19 then. So I joined Ash United, which was, you know, very, very local to me in Aldershot. I could walk to the games, and yeah, I had 4 years there. We were quite a successful time. And then after 4 years, we'd won the league. I got a phone call from Ted Pearce.
Tell us about that.
I turned him down. He said to me he'd like me to join, and but we had just won the league, and he rang me on a Tuesday night pre-season, and I went to pre-season training at Ash after turning Ted down, and 8 people turned up for training after a team that just won the league. So I had to eat a bit of humble pie. I got on the phone on the Wednesday night and said, Ted, is the offer still there? And he said, yeah, of course it is. We're training tomorrow. And we trained at Gibraltar Barracks then, and it was a lovely day for me. It was a lovely experience for me because I trained. I was very fit, and then I was quite a fit lad because season before I'd played Sunday mornings, Sunday afternoons, Saturday, Monday 5-a-side football, train Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I was very fit lad, and it was just brilliant. Though the first training session, there was players like at Farnborough, like Dennis Bailey, who'd been released by Fulham, I think, at the time, and Paul Mortimer, who obviously went on to make a real good career, and they were there, and David Harlow, and you know, some players who had been playing league football. And the real good thing for me was Ted, after the training session, put me with the first team, you know, and I thought there and then, you know, he obviously thinks a little bit of me. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, done the pre-season, and then obviously played a couple of friendlies, played against Bournemouth, my first ever friendly for Farnborough, and got both goals in a 2-2. And then pre-season went on, and I knew I probably wouldn't start because Dennis was obviously there, and Jimmy Bolton and Simon Reed, you know, so obviously it was took a bit of a, you didn't have to be an Einstein to say he's a boy from Ash ain't gonna immediately knock them off, you know. Well, Dennis Bailey turned up late in the very first game, and we played Kingstonians, and I was lucky enough to get on the bench, and just 2 o'clock, Ted said to me, or 2:30, he said, you're playing, you know, because Dennis is late. So yeah, played my first game in 1986-87, and I scored the goal. We beat Kingstonians 1-0. Loved it. Probably never played so well in my life, you know. I had the adrenaline flowing, and it was a warm August day, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved every single second of my time at Farnborough. But Tuesday come, we had St Albans, and I got the old arm around the shoulder. Dennis is back in, and you're on the bench. So all my friends said, you want to get from there, you know, just leave and everything. But I was never going to leave until I wanted to leave, you know. It took a few more weeks to get in, and then I started playing a little bit more regular, and then obviously Dennis got transferred to Palace, and well, I was a regular then for the 9 years. So.
Yeah. Can you remember your stats for Farnborough? Can you remember how many appearances and how many goals?
I think it's 370 odd with 90 goals. Well, I'm a bit of a football sort of buff and everything, and every side I've ever played for has had a programme, so I've kept every sort of programme I've ever played in. You know, during the pandemic, I got them all sorted out, and it was really good. You know.
What are your most memorable matches for Farnborough?
The most enjoyable one was obviously I scored at Fulham when we lost 2-1 in the FA Cup. But I probably like the very first game of Kingstonians was absolutely a lovely feeling to score. You know, they scored a winner, and like on your debut, and like with everyone saying you're not going to make it at Farnborough, you know, from a local boy from Ash, because it was probably a big step up from going from Ash United, the Combine Counties, to the Vauxhall Premier. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I can remember a Tuesday night game against Hales Owen when I got the winner in the last minute, and then got in the shower, and God rest his soul, the chairman at the time, Ted, had him up by the throat because he never got the sandwiches arranged for Keith Rowlands, the boy we had on loan. And like it was like full of sort of times like that, you know. And we had a few characters like Mark Turkington, and there was always something going on in the changing room, you know.
You must have had some good social times with some of the teammates.
Yeah, there was a core of players who always you know, were there at my time. Like Broomy was there most of my 9 years. Simon was there the full 9 years I was there. Turks was there for the 9 years, and you know, he left a couple of times and come back. And we had a fantastic poker school You know, look, when we used to go, and there was me, Simon, Broomy, Turks, Dean Coney, till Dean had to stop the poker. Yeah, it was real good times, real fantastic times, and yeah, I do miss them. There was never any bad feeling at the club. You know, there was, like I say, there was a core of players who'd stayed, and what obviously did in my 9 years, we always had a proper centre forward, like with Simon most of the time, but you know, David Leeworthy come in, and then Trevor, and then Boovy. You know, like it was like David was obviously, like, for a couple of years very sharp, and I found it very easy playing with him because my game was all about trying to create goals, and he, as soon as he had made that run, or I put it in an area and he was onto it, you know, and he was like lightning, you know, at that standard. Simon was obviously the most intelligent football Farnborough has ever had, and he was quality, wasn't he?
So out of the goals you scored for Farnborough Town, what are your favourite goals that you scored?
Well, my goal at Fulham is lucky enough. I've got it on video, and being an Everton fan, like we'd been so many like years at Fulham without scoring. So every time, like, I go to Craven Cottage to watch Everton, I'd send one of them my goal against Fulham, tell them it's not that hard to score at Craven Cottage. So that was probably my favourite goal, the one at Craven Cottage. Yeah, that was totally enjoyable. I liked me goal against Aldershot, being an Aldershot lad. I scored in the 3-2 at the Rec when there was 7,200 there, and yeah, that was a nice feeling.
There were some big games back in those days, weren't there? Big games, big crowds as well.
Well, my very good friend Tony Calvert, who played at Farnborough and then went to Aldershot, you know, we got together on the phone before we played them the first, and he said, what we'll do is we'll run each other's teams down. I'll run Aldershot down, and you run Farnborough down. I said that Aldershot are rubbish. Basically, if we don't beat them 5-0, we should be embarrassed. Well, Calvert stitched me straight up, and he's just said Farnborough's a great side. So when I turned up at the games, especially the second one at home, and I was getting spat at by the Aldershot fans and everything. So I was. You know, being a local Aldershot boy, born and bred, it was nice scoring. It was nice scoring, and Terry Owens, he was the chairman of Aldershot at the time, and he'd said something about me, or said, and I got into a sort of a dispute with him. So when I scored in the second game, I just ran over to the director's box and give him the old V's, and he demanded that I had some action taken against me by Farnborough Town. So we just went in, me and Alan Taylor just went in. He said, what should we do? And Alan just said, should we just pretend we find you 2 weeks' wages? I said, yeah, if you want, yeah. And it went away, you know. So
did you train once a week?
Twice a week. Twice a week, yeah. And it was well, Alan Taylor was, like, obviously, we all say he wasn't the Alan Taylor who got the 2 goals in the FA Cup for West Ham in '75. But he joined West Ham with Harry Redknapp. That was the same day as Harry Redknapp, and he used to give his coaching was second to none. It was just above. You know, he just used to say to him, if it's good enough for Ron Greenwood, who's the England manager, it's going to be good enough for us. And it was. He taught us all about, like, receiving the ball side on, which was, I mean, everyone does it in modern football now, but at the time it was just something like, oh yeah, it works, you know, and. All we did in training, like for 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, most sessions, was receive the ball side on. So you open out the other way, and he was just a fantastic, and you enjoyed the training at Farnborough. You know, it was always good.
Did you, during your training sessions, when you were having an attacking practice, like do attack against defence or something, so you'd have been up against either Steve or Keith Baker, I suppose, or Wayne Stemp in latter days in training. Did you skin them as often as you did the opposition?
No, because I never had pace. So I always found I could get the ball down and kick it as good as anyone, but I just wish I had a bit more pace.
When it comes to the training, who were the best trainers at Farnborough Town? Who worked hardest?
Simon was the fittest. Stevie Baker was like a pocket rocket, wasn't he? You know, he was good in training, and it was never any bad feeling at Farnborough. In my 9 years there, everyone enjoyed training. Everyone really enjoyed it, you know. And like Ronnie Manville had the pitch fantastic. You know, well, it's beautiful now, isn't it? You know, when you go over there now, like the fair play to the groundsman. I think, you know, it's a lot easier to look after pitches now because they've got so much more science, haven't they? But Ron Manville really was a fantastic groundsman, you know, and the pitch was always nice at Farnborough. It was always nice to play on because I played at Ash when it was a real bobbly pitch. And before I got to Farnborough, so when I got to Farnborough, I found it so easy to play on, like where I used to have to look in the third bobble, try and get it down. It's like a carpet at Farnborough, and that's why I think I hit the ground running, like because it suited my game.
Who did you most like playing with? Which players? You kind of like mentioned Lee Worthy and Reed.
Yeah, well, Simon, I just made my game a little bit easier. Like, so I found I could get the ball down all right. So as soon as I just looked up. There was always someone just to hit straight away. But yeah, I played. God rest his soul. I played with Keith quite a lot. You know, when Keith was like aging, I used to like double up with him, and I found like I got myself into a real good fitness level playing with other boys like. Probably the best player I ever played with at Farnborough was Keith Rowland. You know, he ended up playing at West Ham, and a good friend of mine still. He's a lovely bloke, but he used to, as I turned round to go and help him and double up, he used to just shoo me away because it's just. And Tommy Mason was the same, you know. So that kept my legs going in the right direction. Yeah, no, I played with some real good players. Dean Coney, like I say, was a real good player to play with. Turks was fun. Turks was absolutely quality. Broomy was a good lad, and they're just all nice people. You know, Ted was an acquired taste. You know, you obviously respected him for what he had done, but I've had quite a few little run-ins with him, and quite disappointed that he left me out of the West Ham game when I'd played 200 games before. You know, and like Ginger obviously puts on Facebook like regularly, like, you know, I needed counselling to get over it. And I did, because I didn't deserve not to play the game. You know, I was a local lad who'd worked hard, and, I was good enough to play. If I was good enough 200 games before, you know, I was good enough for the biggest game in the club's history, you know.
I do seem to remember that when we were all in the stands at Upton Park, I think there was quite a lot of surprise that you weren't playing, because it was just you and Andy Rodgers on the bench as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like it was galling because Mickey Dockett was a real good friend of mine, and but he told me before the game it was his last game, you know, so he already knew he was going. And you hear little bits like that, and it's very. And then I come on and sort of made I crossed the ball that the handball come out with, and we got the 1-1 draw, and I thought, well, like in the replay, I'll be starting. And he told me it was in the 89th minute. A bloke called Mike Small, I was warming up with him, the West Ham one, and Trevor Morley scored. I think it was Trevor Morley scored, and he went, and like, because he wasn't getting on. And I think he had to be on the pitch to get his win bonus. And obviously, if they hadn't scored, then I'm coming on, you know, with fresh legs in the extra time. But yeah, but it was fine though. I played the week before and scored. Didn't play against West Ham, and then I played at Altrincham away. I think it was the next week with about 600 people there, and then I played another sort of 200 games. So just missed out the West Ham game. Never mind.
I mean, after everything you did, and then getting to the biggest game in the club's history, and you find yourself sat on the bench. It's It was. I had a couple of little run-ins with Ted. We played Chelsea in a pre-season game once, and he used to, like, me as the local one, he used to like give me a bit of stick and everything. And Alan Taylor just said to me, like, when he said to you, just laugh. So something had happened, and I just laughed at him, and he dragged me off and said, he's laughing at me, Alan. You know, it's like you couldn't win with him. Yeah, you couldn't never win with him. But I do respect him. You know, obviously, you know, you can't. Farnborough wouldn't obviously be where they are now without him. So you had your the unfortunate ending at Farnborough. You would have stayed longer if you could have done, do you think?
Yeah, I had 18 months left of my contract, and like that would have brought me up to sort of my testimonial. But it was just had the feeling that they were going to sign a bloke called Phil Wingfield, and I think I made it easier for them. at the time. And he was a very good player. I'm not saying he wasn't even a better player than me, but I hoped I deserved a little bit better, and it made it easier. Then I was working with an Aldershot player at the time, and as much as I love Farnborough a million times better than Aldershot, when your whole family played for Aldershot and there was a chance to have a game with them, I didn't want to. Well, I joined them for 6 months. Didn't totally enjoy it. I've done all right there, but didn't respect the manager. But Steve Wigley was the manager at the time, and he was good with youth teams, and he might be good as an assistant, but definitely the worst manager I've ever played for. Yeah.
So you stayed there for 6 months, and then what happened after you left Aldershot?
I left Aldershot, and then I went and played at Fleet, and I joined Fleet, and we were in the sort of Southern League. Forest Green were in the league at the time, and we started off really, really good. We were actually top of the league after about 9. Not big enough club to be in that league. We had some really good results, and I started enjoying it a bit. And then Alan Manville, Ronnie Manville's son, he had to leave at the management side, and I was made manager there. So I was playing manager for a little while, but I just found their training they didn't really care enough for me, and I knew I could see what was coming. Like, the club wasn't big enough for that league, so I joined Hampton and Richmond, and that's probably another bad mistake. I was travelling for the first time in my life, and I felt really good in playing because we had a couple of good players there, but the manager told me to boot the ball on. And I laughed at him, and then I looked at him, and he was being serious. We had a boy called Derek Boyne up front. He was lightning. He went on and played for Brentford. And he just wanted us to punt the ball forward and run onto it. I wanted to be travelling up to Hampton just to kick a ball forward. I'm not that type of player. And, I didn't need the money that badly to have that. So I after a few disappointments in a couple of years after Farnborough, I was working with the Ash chairman, and he asked me just to take a few training sessions. So I took a training session, second one, and then the manager jacked in. And first game of the season, I was suddenly asked if I'd just take the side for a week. Played Feltham on the all-weather and lost 5-1. And went home. My dad always used to ring me, and he said, "How'd it go, son?" I went, "Oh, we lost 5-1. He just said, "Oh, what have you done?" He said, "You were in the conference 2 years ago." And I just said, "I'll turn it around." And I must admit, I had 5 years as the player manager at Ash, and absolutely loved every moment of it. I could walk across the road, and I got together a really good side, and 250 games. We won over 200 of them. It was a really real good time for me. I could still play, and that's why I wish that them 5 years were still at Farnborough. If I'd been eased out at 37 with 600 or 700 appearances, that would have done me.